It's just possible that you've got a set of pens like this at home. So these are from W.H. Smith and they're probably quite a few years old, and the interesting thing about them is that they have two different tips, one each end, and you can see it says it's water-based ink. So they are designed for adding to water. So I thought we'd have a little look at these, because if you've got anything like this, you can just try your pens that you've got, and the wren has just said hello. You can try the pens you've got and see if you can work with them in the same way. So these have got several colours on them. This is Swaffham, and you can see this beautiful structure that sits in the middle of this market town in Norfolk. So I'm just going to attempt to try and get the shapes. I'm not going to draw an exact sketch or anything. Let's just see how this goes. So one of the things that I do tend to say to people is that having one of these and one of these is fine, except you spend half of your time rubbing out and starting again. So if you can be brave enough, get rid of that, grab yourself one of your pens and just draw. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, it's just about getting it down and exploring the medium. So I'm not going to pencil sketch this out, so you can admire my complete mess of a drawing if you like. So I'm going to start with this end. This one's got a brush end, and this one's got like a pen end. So let's see what happens. In fact, I'll probably pop it over to one side slightly. So going for the big bold shapes first, trying to get that dome. I'm not going to worry if it's right or wrong, it really doesn't matter. Just big nice sweeps. And this is a grey pen. This one's slightly wider, so it's sweeping around like that. Then there's a smaller one inside. And then we go down a bit, and then there's some chunky bits sticking out there. I'm not going to worry about them. Just keep it simple. Pop down with a line here, which is a pillar. Then we've got one here. So you can see I'm keeping this very loose. There we go. And there's one at the back here. So also there's a ellipse that's going on in the background. So you can see that's not quite correct. But you know what? We're not here to make a perfect drawing. We're here to have some fun with these pens. You can, if you're into this sort of drawing, doing sort of ellipses or square buildings, whatever, it's a really good exercise if you can do it. If you can't, it's a good practice to try it. And I am not a buildings expert, but I quite like the lines you can get just by doing something like this. It's just about having some fun, really. So you can see how bold I was there. We've also got this leaning statue on here. I'll find out the details and pop it in the description so you can see the history of this structure. It's also got some lovely lines coming down from the centre like that. Doesn't matter if they go over, it really doesn't matter. So there's my basic structure. Now I'm going to go for the brush end, and keeping the shapes very simple, going to shade in some of these areas that are underneath. You can see my ellipse is not the right shape, so I can adjust it as I want, but I'm not starting again. I'm just going to enjoy how this works. So this has got a shadow on here. It's quite nice, this brush end. These are called brush pens, but they may be called other things depending on where you live. So we've got some stronger lines up on here, just to delineate that. Now we're probably getting to the point where we need to just see what happens where we add some water. So you can see this one's too low down, so let's put some shadow in there, and then this one isn't low enough, so give it a base. There we go. Bit of shadow in here, and we'll drag that forward in a minute. This one also could come down a bit more. There. Right, all I'm going to get is my brush and some water. I've just already splodged there. So literally pulling the brush with the water through the marks I've made, you can see how it's taking the ink with it, giving some very nice effects. This is a great way to do a quick sketch if you're out and about on location. You want to just capture the moment of something. What a brilliant way of doing it. And that one's quite light there, so put quite so much in there, just a little bit more water. Quite hard to keep the highlights, so you might want to think about having a dark side and a light side, keeping that in mind as you put your water on. You can see it runs all over the place, but that's fine, I don't mind that. We can pop it back into some sort of focus later on. So that's the grey one, and that's really good for just playing around with shadows and things like that at all times when you are painting on location. It's really quite lovely, the effects it's giving, and it's just a brush pen and that's it. Could take some of this colour off to sit this into the ground so it stops it floating quite so much. Let's have a look at the textures that's creating. Lots of water, paper's doing its work. This is watercolour paper, so you can see how the ink is splitting. Awful lot of pens do this, and you think your pen is going to wash out and it's waterproof and you've left it to dry. It won't wash out, so you need to check before you attempt to do a picture with something like this that it actually does have the ability to mix with water. So I'm going to let that dry. Earlier on I did a quick sketch of a jug in front of me, and you can see all the washes, and then I just added a little bit of lavender watercolour for some fun colours on top. But we have got loads of colours in here, so let's have a look at some colours we have. Lavender in here. So let's see if this is dry enough. Not really. So we'll let that dry and then we'll come back in with a lavender. So with cerise on our paper here, just going to add some detail with lavender. Just add a little bit of colour, bit of depth into some of the areas. As I say, these pens are quite a few years old. Never really used them, which is a shame, isn't it? Because I'm really finding out they can do an awful lot more than I thought. So this colour is quite a lot weaker than the previous colour, but it might just add that little bit of depth to suggest that one side is a little bit darker than the other side. It's all an illusion, isn't it? There we go. So we've got some darkness coming under here because it's under the shadow there. The rest of it is fairly okay. That's a dark one. This one mostly down one side. A little bit of dark on here. And then we'll go around the side again here just to add that as dark, and round here and round here, and then switch back to the pen end. Just add some more lines in here, which may or may not wash away again depending on how much we do to it. It's a little bit overdone here, so I probably wouldn't need to go quite as mad with the water next time. This is definitely a drier pen. I think this one's probably seen better days. Right, let's try what happens with that. Not too much water, just softening some of that away. That's better. I think I had too much water the previous one. Just soften some of those edges, leave some of the edges as hard edges. Soften some of those lines just a little. Round, pull in that way. There we go. That looks quite nice and simple, and quick little sketch. You could add all sorts of details. I'm going to let that dry once more. Using pens like this means you can play with a colour wheel. So we've got a purple and a yellowy orange colour, which you can pop on as opposites, and this is quite a dull one, I think. So let's just see what that looks like. So that can just pop up your colours a little bit. So I'm very much not looking too much at the reference photo now, because we've gone beyond that. You can just add some little details. If something doesn't look right because it's too sort of solid, you just soften it away. Let's just see whether that lifts off again. So it doesn't completely lift, but you can get some of it back, so that's not too bad. The other way you can use these is get yourself just the pack, if you like, or one of your plastic palettes, and draw on it with the pen. Ooh. Using your brush, pick up the pigment, so you're then using it like a paint. So I'm just adding that colour down these light hand sides of the pillars, also helping to add a little bit of depth to it. There we go. So you can pick up the pigment, just use a piece of plastic that they're wrapped in, or use your plastic palette. That works really well. So again, going to let that dry, and then I may well come back in with my fine liners. So we're all dry, and I'm going to try a fine liner. Now, fine liners generally are water and fade proof if you buy a good one, but even some normal pens that you use to write with actually are water and fade proof, so you don't have to get an art pen. Some of the pens you do have to watch out if you're going to add water later in any way, shape or form. Possibly they could run, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. That you just need to understand your paints, how they perform. Once they're on, do they dry and stick and never move again, or can they be moved with water? Make sure you check your pens, because when you're putting your final touches on, you don't want everything to move if you accidentally do a wash that you didn't expect, and then your whole pen runs all over your picture. Well, some of the colours when pens do run are really, really beautiful, so do experiment with all your pens to see what they do. So for this one, I'm going to go in with my new Derwent line maker, and it says it's, well, I'll read it for you because it's almost impossible to read on there, super fine free flowing permanent liner, and it's black. It doesn't actually say waterproof on that. It's really interesting, but I know I have checked it, so I'm absolutely fine. So let's give Ceres some little bit of detail. She might be holding something. Apparently she may have held poppies and wheat as for the harvest, etc. I haven't got a close-up photo of her to feature and make sure I get right, so I'm just going to do a gentle sketch around, following some lines here, just to reinstate some of the lines that we had on here, but also just because I like drawing on top of my paintings. I do at the moment, I may change in the future. go back to all soft edges, who knows? So the beauty about art is you can do what you like. Just following these lovely curves around again. If I don't get the curve right, doesn't matter. I am not worrying about this. I can tell you I have not got the reference photo up at the moment. I'm just following these lines and enjoying the feel of the liner, just highlighting some of these. It's not a test of accuracy, and if you're a technical drawer or an architect, then my apologies. But I have met many architects who end up as artists, and they will generally admit that it's very hard to let go of getting things accurate. But of course, the fact that they are accurate gives them a huge head start with perspective and etc. And they're full of ideas for pens and the way you can use tools. So if you know any architects, it's definitely worth having a chat to them and see if they can help you with your art. So the ones in the background here are slightly less prominent, so I'm just giving very light lines here just to suggest that they're there, because they're pillars, they are supporting this back area here. It's sort of coming to life now, isn't it? I'm generally not a painter who does buildings, but it's quite nice every now and again to try something out of your comfort zone. Lots of you will disagree with me. There you go, let's pop some lines in here. Not quite sure what happened here, that doesn't matter, does it? Sweeping lines around. This is definitely a beautiful market cross. If you're ever in Norfolk, do pop into Swaffham, have a look. There we go. One last little step down. And there we go. Swaffham Market Cross in brush pens and fine liner. So see what pens you've got and see if they will dissolve in water, and have some fun with them. And on the top of the market cross is the Roman goddess Ceres, the god of grain and the harvest. So that's nice to know, isn't it?